Lisa, roll call.
Patty Betray.
Present.
Anne-Marie Moore.
Present.
Tori Anderson. Gary Miller.
Present.
Robin Melvin.
Okay, and I do want to make a note that Tori and Rhonda are homesick, so we wish that they get better real quick. Alyssa, would you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, moving on to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have any motions or amendments? I have a motion
Second?
and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Call the public. I have not received any cards, and looking at the audience, I don't think I have anybody going to be coming up. So, moves down to Superintendent's report. Dr. Chestnut.
A few things to report on tonight. And I think I got these out of order. And I'm going to start by turning it over to Alyssa Hollingsworth, Junior Class President, to give us the Maricopa High School report.
Recently, our cans giving food drive ended, and we got over 500 cans from all the grades. The sophomores brought in the most cans, so they're going to get into our winter dance for free, and all the proceeds from that are going to go towards the Maricopa Youth Council COPA care packages, so that's where all the profit is going to go to. Also, we had Shark Tank. We had kids from elementary, the middle school, and the high schools compete, so that was really successful. We had a lot of people. Yeah, I did win. Thank you, Patty. Also, we had Linksgiving, which was an event for the freshmen put on by Link Crew. So we had a good group of freshmen come, and everyone brought food and had a good time, so that was just something to make the freshmen feel even more welcome. We tried to have events for them every month through Link Crew, so that was November's activity. Also, we have the dance recital this weekend, so all of the dance classes are going to take part in that. Those are usually super successful, so they're having 2 shows to make sure the fire code isn't broken because everyone comes to them. Also, we have on December 12th, it's going to be a busy day, we have the robotics competition, which is going to go all day, and then that same night we're having our winter dance from 7 to 10 p.m. So that's it.
Thank you, Alyssa. Lots of exciting stuff happening at the high school, and I did want to follow up on that by reminding you that Maricopa High School fall sports have begun and well underway. A lot of students turning out, a lot of student athletes, and those are great programs for our Maricopa High School students as well as middle school sports. I'm having trouble with my clicker. So this is another one of those announcements that we just can't say enough. We're very proud of Angela Ebner. She did not win Teacher of the Year for the state of Arizona, but she is in the top 5. And so her official title will be Ambassador of Excellence for the next year. So we're very proud of Angela, and it's good. She's a great example of wonderful teachers we have in our school district, and congratulations to her. Today I attended the Maricopa Economic Development Alliance board meeting, and I'm a member of that board. They wanted to hear about the recent special legislative session and Proposition 123 that will be on the ballot in May. And they wanted to hear about the override. So I gave them that information, gave them a little update on our progress, and had a good discussion with them, very supportive group. And wanted to remind you that a week from today, we're going to start Budget Committee. Jim Irving and Rick Nielsen will lead that process. Still looking for 2 governing board members. If you would like to participate, it's not required. It's kind of been our tradition for a number of years. But you know, there are some committees where we do have governing board members and some where we don't. So anyway, let me know if you are interested. And I just wanted to remind you that the official November election date is coming up. It'll be here before you know it. November 2016, November 8th to be exact, that will be general election day, and there'll be a lot of excitement on that ballot with a presidential election and all kinds of other things, but that will also be our override proposal, and you know what that proposal is, 10% for 7 years to fund those two items. And I put a brief handout sheet at your spot there just to, so you can remember the details with some extra copies in case you want to pass those out. But we're in the process of having an informational link on our website, and we'll have that on every school website as well. And we will post factual information on there as often as possible so that we can get good information out to people, and that's an important thing for us to do. And that's all I have to report.
Governing board member reports.
Yeah, I'd just like to express, we're talking about Prop 123, which will bring additional $3.5 billion to Arizona schools. And May 17th is a special election, and I understand that Megan Reagan, our Secretary of State, Michelle Reagan, yes, sorry about that, and she's taking pro statements that will be reflect in the special election voter pamphlet, and there's requests by Friday, December 4th, to bring in those pro statements for Prop 123. So I would urge for people to contact the Secretary of State, and I'm sure on the website it expressed kind of what they're looking for in the letter. So definitely urge a lot of people to send in some good statements. And that's all I have.
Oh, I wish we would have known that earlier. We could have done it as a board.
Right. Well, I think even some of the legislators just was made aware of this. So I just received the communication today. But yes, you're right.
Thank you.
Yes.
Emery?
I don't have anything specific to report, but I did get a lot of great feedback about the Shark Tank experience, and I talked to some judges and to some kids who participated, and everybody just had great things to say about that event and how well run it was, and what a great experience it was for the students. So kudos to the district and the staff and all those who made that possible. It's a great opportunity.
It was really nice that they expanded it, not just the DECA students, they expanded it to the gifted the 20+1 and the gifted. And it was really fun to see some of these ideas that these kids came up with. And they had to move it because they had so many entrants. They had to move it into the 200 building because it wouldn't fit in the lobby of the Performing Arts Center. It was outstanding. It was really fun to walk around and see some of these ideas that some of these kids came up with. Everything from a genetic program to change your genetics to a dog and a cat wash that they would put bait and they would follow them through. It was just amazing. Mrs. Anderson did want me to share that she did attend the Teacher of the Year luncheon. I was supposed to go, but wasn't able to at the last minute. And she just had nothing but just kudos to Angela Ebner. I mean, she's definitely a really good representative of our teachers here that we have in our district, and she couldn't say enough about, how proud we are of what she's accomplished. The dance recital that Alyssa mentioned earlier, that is this Friday, Saturday, it's at 7 p.m. For anybody that wants to go, and I believe that they are still looking for volunteers to help at the robotics competition on the 12th. So I'm going to try to do that. Just a reminder, we do have our annual ASBA conference next week. It begins on Wednesday, so I don't think any of the board members would be able to go to the budget meeting if we're going to be in attendance to that conference.
It's okay to have an absence or two.
Okay, yeah, he's still trying.
So
Oh,
I plan
awesome.
on expressing that, so I'll fill that gap.
And we were notified via email through ASBA that our board is receiving another award. What was it, not All-American, was it All-American? No.
Total boardsmanship?
Total boardsmanship, which means that the majority of our board members have achieved an orientation plus beyond. So that's pretty good. So it's kind of nice. And then Mrs. Anderson also informed me that even though our award, our Church Lady Award, will be leaving us next week, she's going to be taking it back to ASBA, we are going to be getting a permanent award that we will be able to keep. So we'll be able to keep it in the boardroom. but it won't be our lovely, yes, so we'll have to say goodbye to our, and we were going to take a picture tonight with us all around it, but unfortunately, the other board members aren't going to be here. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, so let's go on to our information work study. Review of the monthly financial report. Mr. Roush?
Thank you. President Coutray, members of the board, Dr. Chestnut. Again, we have our October financial report, and as always, I just want to point out we always honor a little bit of our staff and our school district, and so our food service employees are honored on this October financial report. If you had a chance to read that, we've got a couple pages of memos, and I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Roush.
you're welcome.
All right, consent agenda. Do I have any motions? I have a motion? And a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, action items. Discussion and possible approval of the personnel schedule. Dr. Chestnut?
Mr. Beckett is not with us tonight. He took a vacation day today, but I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions? Any motions?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Discussion and possible approval of first reading of updated policy GDBA, support staff salary. Dr. Chestnut?
Yes, as you know, I think I communicated this on email. We need to update this policy. I didn't realize that we were out of compliance with this policy because we have the ability to change certified wages, salaries in mid-year if needed. And it came to my attention that we, in policy, don't have that ability for classified staff. I think this is something we need. I also know that it's very reasonable expectation by the board that we take salary information for groups of employees and process that as part of our budget process. And we plan to continue that. We're working on the compensation plan for all classified staff. Right now, Mr. Beckett's leading that committee, and we plan to have recommendation for you to consider as part of budget deliberations, so that will be in place for all classified staff for next year, with plenty of time to think about it and reflect on it. But the issue is that on occasion there are individual cases that need to be remedied or changed for what we hope is a good, valid reason, and we'd like to have that flexibility.
We've been doing that all along, though.
Correct.
We've done it a few times, yes?
So this is just kind of correcting what we've,
That's correct. We want to be, now that we know we're not in compliance, we want to get back in compliance.
are there any questions?
When you discovered that we were out of compliance, was that discovered internally?
Yeah, really since the last board meeting, we reviewed that policy, and Mr. Beckett caught that and said, you know, this is something we should fix.
Any motions?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next one, item C, discussion and possible approval of changes to superintendent's performance pay plan for 2014-15 and 2015-16. And what I just want to reiterate before we get into discussion is this is just a plan. This is not determining the dollar amount. This is that we would award for his performance. This is just the plan in general. Dr. Chestnut?
Yes, and if you recall, when this performance plan was approved about a year and a half ago, I believe it was in June of 2014, we anticipated that letter grades would be available from, awarded by the state for this past school year. And then the state board ended up putting letter grades for schools and districts on hold because of the switch over to AZ merit testing. So since half of my performance pay was tied to letter grades, and letter grades are based on the state test, I asked the attorney to drop a possible change that would be similar, even though there are no longer letter grades. So that means that half the performance pay would be based on AZ merit results instead of the letter grades, which were based on Ames. And then the other half would remain the same, where performance pay would be based on accomplishment of last year's strategic plan. So that part I don't believe changes. Right. Goal 2.
Yeah. Stays the same.
Well, that was the same that we had before.
That was part of the original plan.
Correct.
And it can still be utilized.
Correct.
Right. So this would just deal with the first goal, or the one half of the performance pay.
Well, it's actually the whole plan in itself, and I had the opportunity to
Speak with Mrs. Anderson regarding it, and she was okay with it. It's just when you get to the goal 2, because the way it's worded, she would like to see, because it's tied into the strategic plan, that's the evidence that is used, she would like to review that strategic plan in January, because that kind of now would be out of date if we're going to use the AZ merit, because that strategic plan refers back to the letter grades. So we would have to review that and then set goals from that. And it's good that we start this now and then in January review that, because now we have those AZ merit scores that we can turn that into and say, okay, we want to see this percentage growth of this, this, and this, because now we'll have a benchmark to start from. So she was okay with that, but that was the only comment that she made on how our strategic plan then is kind of out of whack with what we would approve here.
True, because one of our main goals of our strategic plan is to improve letter grades. But I think that if we are going to change our strategic plan, we should change it so that when the state does go back to letter grades, it's still
Right.
applicable, letter grades, and in the absence of letter grades.
Right, and that's something that we
Right.
will bring back in January and
Right.
further get
Okay.
into. But, and the beauty of the strategic plan is that's something that's a fluid plan. We can change that at any time. So as these things are happening in education through the state and our legislature, we can go ahead and change it, because we don't know. I mean, it could change again. They could change the test again. They could. So we have to be able just to make sure that we stay on top of our strategic plan and change our goals. But this is very generic to lead into that. And I think it's I think it's worded well for the next couple of years until we can get a standing point with what we're doing at the state level. I did request, that maximum of, instead of just putting one fixed dollar, so that would be adjustable if we deemed.
Minor change on goal number 2, it's on strategic plan performance. For evidence of performance, I listed strategic plan update document that we look at every 4 months. We look at that updated document. So that would be the document wrapping up last year, dated progress through June 30th. So the original wording on that said we would only look at goals 2, 3, and 4 from the strategic plan. But I think after I've thought that through, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, because we spend so much time on goal 1, and there's so much there that's more than just letter grades that I'm very involved with, that the teams I'm involved with are very involved with. And so my request would be that when goal 2 is judged, that entire update document be used.
the whole,
Yes,
not just.
not just goals 2, 3, and 4. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I mean, I think they're very worthwhile goals in terms of the AZ merit scores and what you're proposing to, accomplish. So, I mean, I appreciate that you're really stretching out there to,
But we get to set those.
with the strategic plan.
Well, right, but
Yeah.
it says for 2015,
Yeah.
2016, all MUSD schools
Yes.
will improve their EGSI merit scores from this year's
Baseline,
baseline.
yeah.
That's quite a goal, so,
Right, I mean, that's
and that's good.
I think it is, and I think that's one good thing about AZ Merit. I mean, we have a new baseline. I mean,
Right.
I sent you the results, and we are disappointed in those results. We didn't do as well as we had hoped, and I mean, some grade levels did, but overall, we were not above the state average on any grade level taken as a whole. Now, some schools were, but not grade levels taken as a whole. So that's an example of improvement that we need to make. But you got to start from somewhere, and so wherever we are now, we want to improve from, across the board.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, I think that's very important, and I'm sure as for the educators and for our administrators, that, everything's been kind of in the dark and things have been changed, that, it's almost like building your foundation on sand versus, on rocks, and, hopefully we'll be able to have a solid foundation for us to actually be able to measure, outcomes and be able to, incorporate that data into, better policy and better, instruction. So.
Right, these initial results give us the solid evidence of where we need to put some more emphasis and where we need to help our students, improve.
Well, and I think that, well, obviously, we always want our test scores to be better. That's what we strive for every year. Compared to some of our peer districts, we did do pretty well. It's in certain areas, in certain grades especially, so, I mean.
Yeah, the one score that we really need to work on is really in comparison to state average, pretty well across the board. And
Yeah.
our goal, our short-term goal should be to be above the state average at every grade level and every subject, and then well above the state average, So
Right,
there's plenty of work to be done there.
right.
Well, I think too, for the students, transitioning from the AIMS scores to the AZ Merit, I mean, that's a big change, and also the AZ Merit is, is more difficult than what the AIMS, is. And I just, think that the second round that, philosophically, that the students should be, doing better, anyway. So I definitely have, high hopes in the AZ Merit and, the kids, doing better and meeting, our goals and outcomes.
And that's been our history as a district. I wasn't here, but our AIMS scores, we built on them over the years and improved them. Some years, some up, some down years, but overall trend of improvement. So that's what we want to continue.
And I don't think there was any district that didn't see a decrease
Oh,
in their
no.
in their
Yeah.
scores.
Yeah.
I believe that was across the state.
Which was the whole goal of the AZ Merit, was to
Exactly.
raise the standards, so they achieved that. Can I make a motion?
Is there any more discussion?
That's all discussion.
Okay.
So,
I motion we approve the changes to the superintendent's performance pay plan as discussed and per the document.
Second?
so does that mean, with that means that there will be the change still on that goal number 2?
That goal number 2, that goal number 2 will correlate with whatever the strategic plan is that we put in place.
Okay, so we can
So-
motion to approve this, and then that can still be.
Right, we're going to go back in
addressed then.
January, and we're really going to take a hard look at our strategic plan, and that's where we can adjust those goals. Since that's an exhibit, it's not a policy change, and we can change it at any time. And that's the whole idea, is that if it's a fluid. I mean, we can change it in January, and we may want to come back again and change it if something else changes. But his performance plan will be tied into that strategic plan, to the goals of that, as a whole, not just one specific goal.
So then so then the motion is to approve this, and then being able to go back in January for goal 2 to be able to work on that at that time.
Yeah, I guess my question, I think, and it's Gary's question too, is, and that's why I said as discussed, is you said you needed it to be goal 2 to have, goal 2 of this, to have goals 1 through 4 as part of the basis for that, and is that?
No, what he changed is that the evidence of performance was the original plan that we had for him for performance pay it was the strategic plan, but it was the certain goals, those goal
Okay.
numbers. What Dr. Chestnut is now proposing, and which makes more sense, is that it's the entire strategic plan,
Okay.
not just a specific goal.
But and that's reflected in this document that we're approving.
Right, and it gets a little confusing because we're talking about 2 different years. So
Right.
we're talking, we're actually just now getting around to coming up with the plan to award performance pay for last year. And then that, I think it's true that we can tinker with the strategic plan in January that would impact performance pay for, at the end of this school year, right? But we have the strategic plan from last year that we can't go back and change, right?
Right,
So,
because we based it off, yeah.
Right.
right, and so
Yeah.
we're, right, so just make that
Right.
distinction.
Okay.
But should the, okay, I mean, this might be just a semantic, but should that strategic plan update 6/30/15, that would be fine for this year, or for, for last year's.
Right.
But for the next year, shouldn't it just be whatever the fiscal year ending strategic plan update
I-
would be?
I think that's a good point. We probably should pencil in there, I always call them the same thing with just a different date. So probably you're right, it should be a second one listed for strategic plan update 6/30/16 document for the end of this school year. Yes, that should be in there.
So, should I amend?
Your motion was not seconded, so if you'd like to amend it, you may.
Okay, sure. I'll amend my motion to approve the superintendent's performance pay plan to include the strategic plan update for 6/30/16 for Goal 2 for the second year.
Perfect.
And I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Dr. Chestnut, you now have a performance pay plan.
For last year, that's good.
I know,
For
right?
last year and this year. We killed 2 birds with 1 stone. All right, next item. Approve to adjourn to executive session pursuant to ARS 38431, Superintendent's Evaluation, for the discussion and consideration of the superintendent's evaluation. Should the superintendent advise the board that he wants this discussion to occur in the open session, it will occur in the open session. Dr. Chestnut, do you want this in open session? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve?
Executive session?
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
I have a motion, a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We are in executive session. It is 7 o'clock.